I wanted a way for things to sound good that was within my budget. And when I discovered how much better things could sound, I was genuinely impressed. Beyond that, you've got the album artwork, you've got these big, pretty pictures, and there's really something to be said for the act of listening, the act of purposefully going down and setting the record on the turntable, and it forces you to focus on what you're doing.
It's just so much more of an investment, personally. I mean, you feel like such a stronger connection to the actual music. So I feel like for people who do choose to use music as kind of an isolated experience and as something that they choose to dedicate some attention towards, it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, if you're going to really listen to actively some music, then it would make sense to be intentional about that and be able to devote a little effort, but also reap a little greater reward.
It's the way the whole package feels when you hold it. It's the sensation of having something real and tangible and well-made. It's the thrill of opening a brand new vinyl LP and seeing, if it's a gatefold sleeve, the inside for the first time, and inserts, cover art, liner notes, everything about it. It's something that you can possess. And I can't even fathom why anybody would want to listen to MP3s or experience music only in an online digital format. For me, I want the music to be big and warm, and I want the way it's presented to me, the packaging, to be the same way.
Analog audio recording methods are proving to still be relevant today despite having been introduced well over a century ago. In the year 1877, Thomas Edison introduced the phonograph, which functions in a way similar to how people hear. Sounds are projected into a horn, which then funnel the sound vibrations to a diaphragm. The diaphragm sends these vibrations through a tone arm to a needle that etches the vibrations into a wax or tinfoil wrapped cylinder. Resetting the cylinder and allowing the needle to trace over the etchings reproduces the original sound. Come 1887, German inventor Emil Berliner built upon Edison's design and introduced the more familiar gramophone, which functioned on the same principles as the phonograph, except the cylinders were replaced by hard rubber discs. Throughout the early to mid-1900s, the gramophone underwent several minor changes, but stuck to the same basic formula. The most popular record format of all time made its debut in 1948 when Columbia Record introduced the LP. The LP dominated the music sales industry from 1950 through the mid-80s when vinyl records began seeing a decline. Eventually, vinyl records were overtaken by the cassette tape, CD, MP3s, and streaming. However, according to Nielsen SoundScan, the vinyl record is making a strong comeback with increases in sales every year since 2006. As of June 29, 2014, vinyl record sales were up by 40.4% in comparison to the first 6 months of 2013. So what are the reasons behind this resurgence? Aren't vinyl records just an inconvenient anachronism?
Used records are cheap. I mean, you can walk through this store and you're going to find lots of stuff that's $3 and $5, and it's good music that people have forgotten about. And it's really fascinating the things that you can discover that were only ever released on vinyl. A big part of the resurgence is that records are being produced again. What's happening now is that we've got more mainstream artists releasing new music on vinyl, which means that we have more charts like SoundScan that are taking vinyl into consideration in their figures. So a large part of what we have going on is Jack White. It's the cool factor. It's, I'm Jack White, and I say you should buy this record. And so people do. And once they have, then they're going to buy more. It's an investment thing. Once you've got the system set up, then you get the things to put onto the system.
I think when you look at the resurgence of vinyl on a modern day sort of level, it says a lot about the artist when their music is produced on vinyl. An artist that puts out a record, they might have a little bit more invested in their music, personally speaking. You know, you'll find a lot more singer-songwriters, a lot more independent artists, a lot of people who really give of themselves rather than just work as a performer sort of thing. You know, it's almost like a filter. It's like once you step into records, it's like, okay, these are like people who are taking this seriously. These are people who, you know, really care about this, just like me as a listener and as a consumer. And so I think that that's another cool, strong connection between the consumer and the producers of art.
On the new front, with the new music, bands don't make a lot of money on their CDs. CDs are really cheap to do, and the bands feel obligated to sell them cheaply. And a lot of times they're not getting anything, or if they are getting anything, it's very little. Especially with these independent acts, it costs them a lot of money to press the records, but people are buying them. And their markup on that, I mean, I've looked into it, and to get records pressed, it comes out to about $1 a disc plus $1 per sleeve. That doesn't sound like much until you factor in, pre-sales and minimum orders and all that. You got to spend about $3,000 to get a good pressing going. But if they sell through 1,000 records or 2,000 records or whatever at $20 a piece, that's all profit. That's $3 of that is not going to them. Those kind of margins just don't exist in other music formats. So if you've got a band that can afford to go and do it and not break the bank doing it, then supporting them by buying it helps them out a lot. And on the other hand, if you've got a band that can't, then supporting them by buying it keeps them from breaking the bank and enables them to continue to do what they do.
Mainly, though, I think it's because records and record stores and listening to records makes people come together as people, and it creates a sense of community.
Stores like ours and stores like Criminal and Little Five and all those places, yeah, they sell records, but they're actually community centers. They're a place for music lovers and for music creators to get together and to share ideas and to perform and to commune.
There's an element of nostalgia there. Any way you look at it, that's definitely a big factor.
Just the fact that we have things from the 20s and the 50s and just all these historical time periods where there are so many things from that time that don't exist anymore. But the fact that you can have these relics that you can still interact with in the exact same way that they were interacted with prior, I think it really speaks a lot to just the longevity of the format.
You get a lot of this thrill of the chase kind of stuff where you're fighting with 60 years, 50 years of decay to find that nice copy of Dave Brubeck from 1955 or whatever. As an archival format, they're the best thing that we've ever had, especially because they don't require any kind of a digital system to reproduce them. There's no chance of them decaying in any way other than the physical. If they're well cared for, they'll last 100 years or significantly more. If they're well cared for, they'll last forever. And the technology that plays them back has remained the same and is based on simple physical laws rather than on algorithms and computers and systems that can be lost or destroyed or break down.
It started back, what I've witnessed was the college kids started buying it. I think it's a lark. It was cool. They wanted the album covers to put on the walls. They rediscovered the artwork. And then somewhere along the line, they started listening to it, and they fell in love with the sound.
And then, coming from the other direction, there's been a lot of pushback recently, especially among the generations that follow mine, against this transient society that we occupy. We have a lot of things that are designed to fail and that are designed to be destroyed and that are not designed to be reused. And as a culture, we've kind of embraced that. Records, by and large, represent a dramatic pushback against that. So I feel like a lot of youth interest in vinyl has been a response to this throwaway society, just a way to recapture a small piece of permanence and substance in our lives. Way to own something. I mean, you don't own the things you stream on Spotify, you rent them for half an hour. It's about having a stake in your passion.
I think college kids today, the so-called millennials, have had it with a digital-only world. I think they're tired of living a virtual experience, and I think that they're drawn to things that appear real, that appear authentic.
Digital stopped being a novelty. Digital was a novelty for a long time. In the 80s especially, when it first started rolling out, CDs sounded so clean. CDs are quiet. Records can get noisy. Records, even very clean records, can get noisy. They hiss a little bit. And a lot of people find that comforting. But if you've got an all-digital recording all the way through to CD, well-mastered, well done, then it's going to sound great. And it's going to be dead quiet. When there's no sound happening, there's no sound happening. You don't get any of the hiss. You just get what sound is supposed to be there. And that's a really remarkable thing. But it takes a lot of effort to pull it off. Digital can be made to sound really well, but it's really easy to screw up. Vinyl can sound really crappy, but it's hard to make it sound crappy. It takes effort to make it sound crappy. And so you've got the death of CDs because CDs are inconvenient. Everybody has their cell phones. You have one device that connects up to the cloud that streams off of Spotify or Pandora or whatever. And because you have this device, you don't need CDs anymore. So if you want to own an album, then you go get the big cover art and you go get the thing that has the best chance of sounding good, the thing that is the easiest to make sound good.
I think another big factor, though, is the fact that, younger generations have only experienced music digitally, and especially with streaming services, the sound quality gets worse and worse. And so I think people have really picked up on this sort of more authentic presentation of how the music was originally meant to be presented.
It's warmer. When you listen to vinyl, it's how a band sounds if you go see them live. You get a CD and you go see a band, if you're expecting them to sound like that, you're going to be disappointed. The CDs are just too clean. Cassettes would drag over a period of time. Vinyls, it is what it is, As long as you keep your vinyl clean, it stays true to itself.
Things will sustain because record labels have seen that there's money in it, and because consumers see that there's a way to support their industry this way. Places like Criminal and like Analog Revolution, they're going to continue to exist because people need that. They need that sense of community, and they need that place where they can go and feel accepted for the kind of music that they're into, and that's going to continue to happen so long as we enable it to continue to happen.
I think vinyl will always be around. We had a conference call a couple months ago with our distributor for our new stuff, and they had one of the vice presidents of Sony and somebody else from Warner Electra Asylum said that within 2 years they're going to discontinue CDs altogether, be straight to digital, straight to vinyl.
Yeah, I don't think that even if there ever is another dip, or if, something fantastic and new comes out, I still think there, no matter what, are going to be vinyl loyalists, vinyl evangelists, if you will. And, yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere.